I will call to order the meeting of Monday, June 24th. If the clerk would please take the roll.
Councilmember Archibald.
Here.
Councilmember Ashford.
Present.
Councilmember Beeden.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Pemberton.
Here.
Councilmember Warden.
Here.
Mayor Rep.
Here. You have the minutes before you from the regular meeting of June the 10th. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there any additions or deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will stand as submitted. We do have one public hearing tonight, followed by a resolution. If the clerk would please read that.
To hear comments on the application of Eisman Automotive Port Huron LLC, 2440 20th Street, for an industrial facilities exemption certificate for 9 years on real property. Following the hearing, council will consider a resolution to approve the application.
Is there anyone in the audience this evening who would like to speak to public hearing number 1?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members, City staff. Good evening. Thank you for the time tonight. My name is Bruce Seymour, and I am the Director of Business and Community Services with the Economic Development Alliance of St. Clair County. Tonight we have before you an application for an industrial facilities certificate with Eisman Automotive Port Huron. With me here tonight is Neil Kosin. He is the head of finance with Eisman Automotive. Neil's going to take a few minutes to talk about Eisman, what they do at that facility, and why they're expanding their facility.
Thank you.
Neil?
Good evening, everyone. So Eisman Automotive was started in Germany, Badura, Germany, in 1964, and has been expanding ever since. They have a global presence currently in Europe, Asia, as well as the United States. We joined the Port Huron City in 2014, for which I joined at that time as the head of finance as well, and we continue to grow. Currently, we manufacture automotive interior parts, leather-wrapped, vinyl-wrapped instrument panels, as well as glove boxes, side panels, all to kind of go into the luxury models for your everyday vehicles. So ever since 2014, we've been growing. We've gotten to the point where we have breached the walls, so we are expanding. The building's going up currently, and we need to continue to grow and continue to contribute to the Port Huron community.
Thank you.
So before you tonight is an application for an industrial facility tax exemption certificate. Eisman Automotive is expanding their facility by 48,373 feet for additional manufacturing space. The estimated cost or investment that the company is making is just under $4 million on this expansion. When the company located here in 2014, they discussed with us expanding their operations. So this is the first of those expansions that they discussed back in 2014. As part of the expansion, the company is committing to hire 15 new employees over their current level of employment as part of this expansion. Working with city staff is recommending a 9-year tax abatement on the real property for the expansion. This abatement would only cover the new facility only. It does not affect the existing facility. So before you is the request for a 50% reduction in their taxes for their real property taxes for a period of 9 years. Answer any questions that you might have either about the application itself or about the company.
Does anyone on council have any questions?
Mayor
Councilmember Harris.
Mayor Rep, I just kind of wanted to make a comment tonight. I think it was part of the mission statement that was in our packet with this, and being that these type of situations have existed since 1976, I just think it's a great thing to see how we're expanding in our metro park there, or whatever we call our industrial park. But I think it's a big plus, and I was just glad that was included in our packet tonight. So, welcome, Port Huron, again.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mayor Rep.
Councilmember Warden.
Again, thank you very much for the investment in Port Huron and the expansion. Just had a couple technical questions. I noticed that the Eisman Automotive is the tenant as far as, and the landlord is actually a core. I think it's a core. I don't know.
That's correct.
And with this expansion, is the landlord the one building the building, owning the building?
Yes, that is correct. Core is our current landlord for the original building, and then they are the ones financing the construction costs, and then we will be having rent back to them.
Okay. And then as far as Iceman Automotive, you're paying for your equipment expansion on the inside as
That
your
is correct.
business?
That is correct.
And these numbers, the total amount, does that combine the landlord and the, or what's the 3.9 million?
The 3.9 million is only the real property investment. We no longer do personal property tax abatements. In 2016, the state of Michigan eliminated the personal property tax, and so there's no longer a need to do abatements for those. So we don't include those on the forms any longer. So what you have before you are just real property investments.
So it's really to the landlord then? The landlord is the one constructing this and paying for it?
Correct, but it's, according to the state guidelines, it's the entity that is responsible for the taxes that can file for the abatement. In this case, it is Iceman that does pay those taxes. So
Okay.
Iceman is the applicant.
So of the,
And going to your point, included in the application itself is the lease agreement, and by state law, the lease has to be for at least the same period of time as the application request. So the lease is showing that it's at least for a 9-year period.
well, I appreciate, that's where I kind of picked it up on that packet, including that in there. And I just wanted, as far as having the tenant and your multinational business here expanding, having the landlord go along with it, with the lease, I do approve this and support this, and thank you for the information.
Thank you, Councilman.
Any other questions from council?
No, I just have a comment. I too, Bruce, I knew it wasn't, it only could go for new facilities because the Public Act discontinued that because of all the kickback that, not kickback, but for the sake of better terms, that it wasn't really benefiting us in the long run. I'd just like to commend you on going the extra mile, taking an investment on there, and I'm glad that we do have this tool still available that allows you to do this. But I was not concerned, but I know you had up to the 12, I think it's up to 12 years you could do that. Okay, what was the story behind that? You just need the 9?
Working with the city staff, based upon the investment amount and the new jobs that are being created, they entered that into their matrix.
Okay.
And it shows that they would, Iceman qualifies for 9 years.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's the request, based upon staff recommendation.
Okay, and that probably was on calculations of money's back that we would recoup?
Yeah, whenever we do these agreements, it's a negotiation. And so we negotiate on what the level of investment is, what the level of job creation is, with the guidelines adopted by council, which is how we came to the 9 years.
Okay, excellent. And I'm glad to hear that we always could have new jobs coming this way, and I hope you find the people to fill them.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then also, there was one other thing that we should note, as a citizen, there's nothing about us being on TV because we're not on TV tonight, but they always want to know when we do these negotiations and we reach this and we pass this, that we do have built in here security on behalf of the city. So if anything goes south or anything goes wrong, you have to live up to that. We can pull that back out from under you even before the end of that 9 years. So that's something that we should always, hold there, as a base foundation. So thank you so much for what you do for us. Yep.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you very much for your investment in our community. It's nice to see you growing.
Yes.
Is there anybody, I guess at this point, is there anybody else in the audience who wishes to address the council on public hearing number 1? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion to approve the application.
So moved. Support.
Pro Tem Archibald and seconded by Councilmember Ashford. Is there any other comments? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We'll move on now to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council on any item either on the agenda or just under our jurisdiction? Please come forward. You have 4 minutes. You need to state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, I'll declare public comment closed. We will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Pemberton, is there a second?
Second?
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald?
Mayor Rep,
Yes, Councilmember Warden.
if you can take number 2, resolution 19071.
Okay. We will take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Under the consent agenda, we scheduled a public hearing for July the 8th to hear comments from all persons interested in the maintenance costs of the Huron Avenue streetscape project from the north side of Black River to the south side of McMorran, and approving the various resolutions for the declaration of and preparation of a special assessment roll and other matters associated with that special assessment district. Approve the reappointment of Daniel Casey to the Local Development Finance Authority for a term to expire June 11th, 2023. Confirm the city manager's reappointment of Carolyn Holly as a rental property owner to the Rental Housing Board of Appeals with a term to expire June 10th, 2022. Approve the reappointments of Robert Clegg, Michael Cogley, James Dewey, and Patrick McFarland as the alternate to the Zoning Board of Appeals for terms to expire July the 1st on 2022. And under ordinance, gave the second reading and enactment of one to amend Chapter 52 zoning to rezone the property generally described as 923 Oak Street from R1 zoning district to C1 zoning district. And we will go back to, from the city manager, number 1.
Accepting the bid from Reasonable Construction Services Incorporated in the amount of $143,476 for the water filtration plant roof replacements for the main building, low lift building, and the flocculation building.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support?
Councilmember Beeden, discussion.
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Warden.
just in the packet, this is a over 20-year-old roof, is that the information here? And are replacing it with, it looks like some type of a new membrane with the gravel over top. Is that kind of an advanced thing compared to what was on there now? The last 20 years? New technology or new?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. No, there's basically, when you go to do roofs of this nature, there's 3 different styles. The one that up there now is the ballasted roof with the rock on top that holds the membrane. The one that's proposed here is mechanically fastened, which is like middle of the road. And then the last one left is the fully adhered, where they actually glue the whole membrane down. So this is like middle of the road. We had a minimum 15-year warranty in the specs, and in conversation with the contractor, the roof we're getting is for 20 years.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you. These are flat roofs, pretty much?
Yes, they're all flat.
They're all the wonderful flat roofs.
If you look back, no matter what building, you basically get 20 years worth of
Yeah.
life out of a
They are,
roofing system.
they are a challenge, that's for sure. Well, thank you.
Any other questions for Eric before he sits down?
Mayor Rep, I don't
Councilmember
think if
Harris.
the question is to him or not, but I'm looking at the bids here, and I just wonder if this come in within the parameters of bid. The first place bidder was reasonable, but they're a non-city resident. And Zimmer Roofing is a city resident as far as for commercial location, and I just wondered how that fits into this bid thing. Did they qualify to match?
Because it's over 100,000, it's got to be within 1%. So
1%.
we worked with finance and double-checked that before we brought the recommendation.
I appreciate it, yes, thank you.
Well,
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 2.
Accepting the quote from Tri-County Equipment Incorporated in the amount of $23,198.72 for a John Deere 1025R subcompact utility tractor for use by the water filtration plant.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a
Support.
second? Councilmember Ashford. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Rupp?
Councilmember Warden.
Just, again, the current tractor with this replacement, is it still going to be able to be used or backup, or are we going to be bidding that out or trying to salvage it?
We'll be using our purchasing policy to discharge the equipment, sell it, auction it off.
Sell it? Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other questions, discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 3.
Approving amendments to the 2018-2019 budget for end-of-the-year adjustments.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
Councilmember Pemberton, supported by Councilmember Ashford. Could you give us a little overview of this, please, Mr.
Yes,
Curry?
Madam Mayor and Council, the vast majority of the budget amendments are adjustments to the revenue lines for revenue slightly up, but also that takes into account our grants we receive as well. The vast majority of the expenditures increased were because of capital in our Parks and Recreation, and also for grant-driven overtime in the public safety, so OWI enforcement and a lot of the DOJ grant programs.
Is there any questions from anyone on council?
Mayor Rep.
Councilmember Warden.
I just have a comment, as we were seeing here in past years in budget with this rising, starting to see some increases over our budget amounts for revenues continually. I think last year we had the same, where we had some of the income come in a little higher than expected, and again, this is back again where excluding the grants, which of course is a lot of hard work, and we have a great, outstanding grant writing team here, or at the city. But of course, the investment income, because we're starting to get a little higher, more higher dollar return, higher interest return, state shared revenues looks like it's up. And I'm just wondering on the income tax, if that comes through, is that something that we would have to amend after the year end if we know that the income tax is coming higher?
No, the only thing you have to amend is expenses that exceed your budgeted amounts. Your revenue can come in above your budgeted amounts, and that doesn't require an amendment. And so if income tax comes in significantly higher, slightly higher, that's something that we'll just note in our audit. One of the things to consider as well is we rolled out new income tax software in the last year, and so some of our income tax numbers and reporting are slightly delayed, and so we really won't get a good grasp of that until probably year end.
Yeah, I guess just I think it was last November or December, I don't remember the time frame. Maybe it was, we actually amended the budget because we had that additional revenue in, and then was it to reallocate it to a different?
We made a transfer.
A transfer because of the higher numbers?
We made it was not just because of income tax, it was a whole host of issues. It was
Yeah.
decreased spending and increased revenue.
Yeah, okay. Well, I appreciate it. It looked like on the revenue side, it looks like we're inching up on some of these things, which is good. I appreciate it.
Mayor Rep.
Yes,
I
Councilmember
guess the
Ashford.
bottom line, we're still, the bottom line is our budget is balanced, and we could do this under the rules. It gives us that leverage that we can. And I like the explanation under each of the categories that were selected. You know, a lot to do with our streets and our cemetery and our enhanced fund. It kind of tells a story and complete the story in terms of supporting those areas that we know so noted when we did our budget.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We'll move to resolutions. Number 2.
Scheduling a public hearing for July 8th, 2019, to hear comments from all persons interested in the maintenance cost of the Military Street Streetscape project, and approving the various resolutions for the declaration of and the preparation of a special assessment roll and all other matters associated with the special assessment district.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support?
Councilmember Pemberton. Discussion.
Mayor Rep, the reason why I kind of removed this off, just to ask, on this south side, are the numbers here, and I see kind of the line item of what the streetscape looks like, the assessment value, and the description of what the estimated amount's going to be. Are these any anticipated increase in cost over last year?
It's about a 10% increase over last year. But if you note, we haven't increased it in several years, so the cost of service has gone up. You notice that we're actually appropriating about $7,000 of fund balance. We can only do that for so long before the fund balance runs out. And so eventually these streetscapes need to either be altered, the level of services or the level of revenue. And that's something we're currently meeting with the business owners, both north and south of the bridge, to get a better feeling for what because times change. Building owners change hands, businesses change hands. And so we want to get a better understanding of what level of services they would like and what level of services they're comfortable with paying. For instance, if you note between Resolution 1 and Resolution 2, there's a significant cost difference. And that's because the property owners on the south side of the bridge didn't want snow removal. That was something that they felt they could do themselves. Whereas the business owners on the north side of the bridge voted to give themselves snow removal. Hence why there's a larger budget there and a larger assessment. And so every couple of years, we like to sit down with the business community, engage, is this still the desired level of services and this is the desired level of cost? And that's something that Natalie, our DDA director, and I are working on right now.
Okay, yeah. So again, reading through the material, it looks like some of it's only being allocated, a certain amount's allocated to the businesses and the streetscape assessment potentially, and then the others coming from reserves that are already on hand, which is going to supplement that. But so the assessment for the south side here, the current numbers, is everybody's current assessments are going to be allocated, that they're going to be 10% higher of the cost per the...
Did we do
what
10%?
you
We did a
just
10%.
said.
15% increase year over year.
So 15%?
Yep. And we did that both for north and south of the bridge as well.
Okay.
And if you look at the appropriation of fund balance, it's a $17,000 budget. We're only taking in around 10 grand. You can only do that for so long. So eventually these funds need to become sustainable, and they aren't right now. And so that's why we're having the conversation with the business community. Because once that fund balance runs out, which I imagine will be within the next 24 months, then there will need to be a reduction in services or a more appropriate assessment.
I appreciate it. Just leading up to scheduling this public hearing, I can only comment on the south side one. That's why I pulled that off. And that's why I was inquiring about that. I think it's very interesting it's kind of a partnership there, and just wanted to know the bottom line.
Well, it's important to note that this is for both the north and south side as well. So they're both going up 15%.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mayor Rapp, excuse me, Mayor Rapp.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
Just a quick question for James on make sure I heard what he just said. You're currently with Natalie working with both sides to see if they want to change services?
Correct.
Regardless of this, that's coming after the fact.
Correct, because, we have, for instance, the Desmond District. When this was established many, many years ago, a lot of the property owners and business owners have changed hands. And so there's a great question of why don't we have snow removal? And they weren't here when they said, well, the previous owner voted against it. And so it's good to revisit that every couple of years and say, hey, is this something you guys want to take a look at again? So that's what we've done. We did a roundtable with all the business owners in downtown in May and in June, and we have another one scheduled for August.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Warden,
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald,
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford,
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden. Yes. Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton,
Yes.
Mayor Rapp.
Yes. Move on to ordinances number 2.
First reading, an ordinance to amend Chapter 34 offenses, Article 7, offenses against public safety, Division 2, consumer fireworks, of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances for the purpose of regulating the hours and days for igniting, discharging, or using consumer fireworks, and to provide penalty for violations.
Is there a motion?
So moved?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Ashford. I wonder if you could give us a little background. I know that the law changed a little bit, and we could make some new changes to the times, so if you'd explain
Yes,
that.
when the fireworks law changed a couple of years ago, a lot of people didn't know what to expect. And then it sounded like a war zone for days before and days after. It was probably the number one complaint we received in the summer months was the fireworks. And I like fireworks, but it's time to cut it out at 2 in the morning type deal. So the state, this is all across the state, communities were just really wanted this to give back to local control to really rein in the fireworks. So that has been done. And so if you still see here, there's the national holidays, you still have July 4th, you have New Year's Day, you have Memorial Day, Labor Day. And so we're not banning fireworks in any way. You still can have your fireworks, but around 11:45, it's time to stop lighting them off.
Any questions,
Mayor Rep,
comments?
just that, is there anything that we're doing that's unique from what the state passed? I looked at it today, and I didn't see anything that stood out, so.
No, not at all. Some communities have been more restrictive, a lot more restrictive. The $1,000 fine is prescribed by state statute, so most communities are doing the $1,000 fine. But we do, to be quite frank, we warn people, say, cut it out, so typically most people comply. So nothing unique here. Most cities are doing that, but from what I have seen, other communities have been a lot more restrictive.
A lot.
So if we need to do that in a couple of years, if we need to revisit this in a year or so and take a look at it, that's something that the community can voice in.
I think it's kind of cured itself over the years. We know how spontaneous it was the first year, and the second year was about the same, but then it's gradually backed off, so this will be another learning curve, but
Yep,
good.
absolutely.
Anyone else have any questions on this discussion?
Mayor Rep.
I was just glad to see the 500 to 1,000. It makes it a little bit more serious. I was wondering about the enforcement aspect of this ordinance, the enforcement part. How, a lot of fireworks going on all over, so it has to be by complaint probably, huh?
That, or if the officers notice on patrol, there's some frequent flyers who have some pretty nice demonstrations that,
Okay,
so, yeah, by complaint or by noticing it.
yeah.
Any other discussion,
Yeah,
questions?
Mayor Rep.
Councilmember Warden.
Just a couple things is, we're looking to change the wording on, this ordinance and the enforcement. There's going to be a lot of people out there that, just mentioning there about it, how is it going to be done? Some people may not know about it, so I'm just wondering if we're going to at least have some type of a, I guess a considerable, hey, the ordinance has changed, it's no longer like that, for people that had no idea, and all of a sudden they get a call and have a police officer or somebody show up. I'm just wondering how that's going to be, if we're going to kind of ease into this when there's some type of a change, because a lot of people might not know, even at the 11:30 time frame or 11:45, or some is at 1 o'clock, it looks like.
So we'll send out a press release and do some media
Yeah.
to promote that this has changed, and I trust the judgment of our officers when they issue warnings.
Okay. The other thing is the wording, it looks like in section 34333, right under, it looks like under 5, it says a person who violates the subsection. It hasn't changed here that it's punishable by municipal civil infraction fine. It used to be $500, it says $1,000, but then the wording, it says $500 of the fine collected under this shall be remitted to the City of Port Huron Police Department. So just for clarity, and that's right above paragraph B, is that wording there, even though it says $1,000, but then it has a number 1,000, but it has $500 written out. Is that meaning that they're still going to be fined $1,000, but only $500 of it's going to the City of Port Huron Police Department? It's on page packet 50.
Is it a typo, or is that correct? 500s go to the state, correct?
500 state.
500 to the state.
Oh, okay, so it's still a $1,000 fine? Okay. Yeah, I just, and is there going to be certain people, I saw there's Veterans Day that's no longer on here, is that right? Some of these other things before that are crossed off. If somebody comes to the city with a special event, like a festival or something that they put on, come through the whole process of putting on a fundraiser or a festival for 3 days or 2 days, can they ask for and have maybe a special use permit if they want to have fireworks around that festival if it doesn't fall on one of these days?
That's the prerogative of this governing body.
Okay. I appreciate the thought and the response. Thank you.
I will say, you bring up an excellent point, Councilmember Ward. We did get a lot of phone calls from veteran organizations who wanted this reined in. We have a significant amount of veterans in our community. I think we have about 2,000 veterans within the city limits. And a lot of veterans groups reached out and were concerned about the massive use of fireworks. We have a lot of people who struggle with PTSD, and these fireworks were a little difficult for them. And so the veterans organizations were asking us to rein in the fireworks as well.
Anything else? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald,
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford,
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton,
Yes.
Councilmember Warden,
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, that concludes our regular agenda. I have a couple of announcements before I get into them. One, press release was sent out today relative to sandbags, and I wonder if, Fire Chief Nicholson, that's under your purview, I believe. Could you talk about that a little bit for our residents?
Mayor, Council, we continue to see rising water levels due to ongoing Great Lakes conditions, both on the St. Clair River and the Black River. The still water conditions we'll see as far as water levels in and of themselves aren't a problem, but when we couple those with boat traffic and wind direction, we're starting to see overtopping of seawalls. We're also having a bit of a problem on the Black River as far as the no-wake zone in a portion of the city. And unfortunately, that will be a multi-step, state-level process to get that changed. So I would not foresee that happening. So in the interim, there'll be sandbags available at the Bancroft warehouse for pickup by any of our city residents. They're free of charge, no appointments needed.
Thank you.
How big, can I ask, like how residents are coming there to expect, are the sandbags already packed in sand, and how big are they? It's like in,
They're the standard size FEMA sandbag, and they will be filled.
just wonder, is it 50 pounds, 25 pounds, 100 pounds? Anybody, I mean, I'm not holding you to the exact, but just
Approximately 40 pounds.
about 40 pounds.
2.3.
So a big bag of cement, that's like a cement thing, okay. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah.
I can lift them so they're not that heavy.
There you go. I don't even know what to say to that. Thank you. Okay. City offices will be closed on July the 4th in observance of Independence Day. Yard of the Year nominations for the Beautification Commission's annual contest can be submitted to the city clerk's office. They need to be in by July the 15th. City Council also has a special meeting on July the 1st at 5:30. It is going to be held in this room, and it is relative to implementing legislation following the marijuana ballot initiative that was approved this past November. And then I have a couple of, that I'd like to say a little congratulations to our Finance Department and Ed Brennan for receiving the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Congratulations. And I was hoping Nancy Windsor would be here tonight, but she's not. But still, I'd like to mention that I had the opportunity to go down while she received, I was at the Detroit Athletic Club last week, where she received the Miriam C. Nolan Award for Nonprofit Leadership. And, you know, it's quite a celebration, and we should be very honored that we have her in our employ, because she's very well respected in southeastern Michigan, and it was very evident that day. So I congratulate her again on her achievements. And then I guess one other thing is I did have the opportunity to attend the NAACP's Juneteenth celebration on Saturday. Councilmember Warden was there as well, and I just want to thank them for putting on a very nice celebration. Is there anything else that anybody has?
Mayor, I'd just like to also commend our finance department on the GFOA award. And I think it's so important that this kind of achievement, you know, really be known, especially as council members. We're hired in the capacity to represent the people, the citizens, and one of the starkest things is that we're all not finance people or accounting people. And even if we are in the accounting area, it doesn't give us any headway on what you do, because you deal specifically with that. I think as council members, if we do find ourselves, you know, kind of, you know, suave and articulate in the accounting area, we're not elected to do the accounting. What we would be, I think, in that sense, is ask the right questions if you do have that accounting background and complement that. But nothing except for safety can be so paramount and so so priceless as you keeping our city halfway stable financially in the job that you and your department do. And so I know I personally appreciate it, and I know, I can't speak for everybody else, but it's outstanding, because this isn't given to you, you earned it. So by you earning that, you represent us very well. So thank you.
Is there anything else to come before the council?
Mayor Rep?
Yes, Councilmember
Just
Ward.
a couple of questions. Number one, on this special meeting coming up, is it Monday, July 1st?
Correct.
And that, for people in the community that may come, are they going to have, will there be a public comment or any input session from the public?
We always have a public comment.
And that'll be
period.
before?
It's the same as we have at every meeting, 4 minutes.
Will it be before the presentation and all, I think,
It would be first, yes.
Okay.
So,
okay. And then do you think, are we going to have a follow-up meeting with that once we get all that information?
Well, I mean, we're going to have to pass ordinances require multiple hearings. So this will be, the first meeting, we'll just kind of hash it out and learn about the law and what we have options. I think it's important that the mayor and council fully understand their options and also the impact on the community. And you make up a good point. It'll be critical to hear from the community input. So we will have the public hearing when we adopt ordinances. The reason why we're holding a special meeting in this room is I believe that based on the last 3 years of hearing this, I think we'll have a decent turnout to know what an educational session on what we have to deal with. And then you'll have the public hearings when you go to craft legislation.
And the other question I had is just on tonight's meeting, I think it's just not being distributed right now live on the camera, or is it actually still being recorded for the public record?
Yeah, we always record our meetings.
Okay, somebody mentioned that the cameras aren't working today, so.
Yeah, well, from time to time, we lose our connection with Comcast, so we record it, we'll throw it up on YouTube, and if we can replay it on Comcast later, we will, but we do a wireless signal to Comcast, and about 2 or 3 times a year it fails us, and today was one of them. We did an afternoon test, and it failed us.
So we'll still just have the record. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
anything else? A motion to adjourn then, please.
So move.
Meeting adjourned. Don't run off.